702.
The Naked Scientist.
Time for The Naked Scientist with Dr. Chris Smith. Your questions in on 011 883 0702, the WhatsApp line 072 702 1702. Dr. Chris Smith, I have to ask a question as we were speaking about hygiene habits that are odd. And there is the argument that from apparently dermatologists that you should not be washing every day because your skin needs to produce those oily substances that protect it, and washing every day might wash it off. But I mean, being in Africa and the kind of heat we deal with, what does the science say? Is it harmful to be washing every day or twice a day?
It depends, Lebo, what you've been doing. Because obviously if you're working in a really dirty environment, or you need to be working in an exceptionally clean environment, thinking out on the fields or doing kind of mucky stuff versus working in an operating theatre, then your requirements are going to be quite different from someone who's going about their day-to-day business and they're not going to be exposed to loads of muck. So really it comes down to what works for you and what is safe, where you need to work and what you need to do. If you're not running into enormous amounts of dirt, there's no need to wash yourself within an inch of your life every single minute of the day, is there? So it comes down to what is sensible. Just use common sense. Too much washing is bad for your skin. And the reason is that soap tends to be quite alkaline, especially cheaper soaps. It tends to strip off the oils on the skin that protect your skin and keep it well nourished, and they will lead to cracking and chapping of the skin, breakdown in the skin, and therefore it opens up areas for infection. It will exacerbate underlying skin inflammatory conditions like dermatitis. This will in turn make you more likely to carry bacteria because you're exposing a non-normal surface to the world, and microbes can find it easier to gain a home there. So the bottom line is you do what is sensible and necessary for the job you do or for the environment you live in, but nothing in excess is ever good. And so I tend to live by that. I mean, I don't chuck all my clothes in the wash every day, for example. Underwear different, but a shirt, well, if you're not out getting really sweaty and dirty, you don't need to wash an office shirt every day. Air your shirt and then use your nose to tell you, is this dirty? Is it visibly soiled? No. Does it smell? No. It's probably fine. People back in the day did not wash at all, let alone the same bits of clothes every day. Not necessary. It's really bad for the environment to keep chucking all this stuff through the wash every day, including yourself, if you don't need to.
And I mean, I'm with the people who you shouldn't wash your jeans often. I don't know if I could go 3 months without washing jeans unless like I'm wearing them.
Yeah,
I've heard of people who say they only wash their jeans once every 3 months, but it's almost like it loses something when the denim gets overwashed.
Oh, it wrecks it. It totally wrecks it, because if you think about it, when the clothes are going around in the washing machine, they're rubbing against themselves, they're rubbing against the other clothing, and it's abrasive, and it will age the fabric, it will wear down the fabric, it liberates the dye from the fabric, so it bleaches it out, and it will wear it out even if you haven't worn it out. So no, there's no easy answer to this, but the bottom line is wash it the least you can get away with, because that's better for your pocket, it's better for the clothing, it's better for the environment, and what's not to like?
So in the words of Dr. Chris Smith, do the sniff test.
Do the sniff test. But underwear, I do make an exception there. That does go in the washing bin. That doesn't need the sniff test. That doesn't.
I absolutely love that. All right, here are some questions that are coming through. The first one on the WhatsApp line. Afternoon, Relebogile. Not sure if this is a scientific question. The chromosome 23 is responsible for the sex of an individual, XY being male, XX being female. If this is scientifically true, then it is also true that this makes gender to be binary. And what scientific evidence do we have that suggests that although sex is binary, gender is non-binary? If our entire outlook is the result of genetics, that's why is gender a choice and a political agenda? Is gender a psychological construct or a result of binary genetic makeup?
Well, I don't know enough about this topic really, because I've swerved around it because I just don't understand it. I don't have a sort of opinion on it because I haven't spoken to people intentionally, because it seems so complicated to me. What I go by is the biology, which is there are two sexes, men and women, and they have a genetic underpinning. And their genetic underpinning, as the questioner quite rightly points out, is one of your pairs of chromosomes are called heterosomes. Hetero because they're different. One is an X and one is a Y. And depending upon what combination of those you have, that makes your body develop according to the instructions on those chromosomes to have a male form or a female form. And if you have XY, you develop down the male path and you have a lot of testosterone, which further masculinizes. If you have two X chromosomes, you develop down the female path. And that's actually the default pathway of development in many respects. And you have a female body. Now, what you choose to call yourself or what you decide is your gender. I think that's a bit different than your sex. But I don't think I have enough knowledge on really the social side of that to have any opinion, because it's, as I say, so complicated. There was someone was saying to me there's something like 85 different genders or something, and at that point I kind of lost the ability to follow the conversation. So I go by biology, which works for me. It's worked for my ancestors, it's worked for your ancestors, and it's worked for pretty much all of nature for millions of years. That's good enough for me.
Interestingly enough, my understanding is sex are what the chromosomes say and not necessarily what the private parts say. And then my understanding around gender is how one identifies. And there are certain, native and ancient tribes that in their mother tongue, which isn't necessarily translatable into English because the words don't exist, there are multiple genders. And that is separate from the era we're living in, where people say, yes, I was born into a male body, but I identify as a female.
Well, certainly we do get people who are so-called intersex, and there are some, they're rare, but they do occur for a range of reasons, and there can be people who have sort of indeterminate genitalia. They have a halfway house, as it were, between man and woman. But for the vast majority of the population, the vast majority of the population, they don't fall into that category, and they have a clear sex. They're either a man and have an XY genotype, or a woman and have an XX genotype. But there are always exceptions, and you are very careful in medicine always never to say never, because there will always be exceptions.
Okay. Thank you so much for that question that's come through in the WhatsApp line. More on 011 883 the WhatsApp line 072 702 1702.
Hi, Dr. Chris and Relebogile there. Hey, Dr. Chris, can you sort this one out? Is there any scientific reason why one should have two bath cloths, like your face cloth and the one that you use for the whole body? Is there any scientific reason, or should we just continue on using one Vaslab? Aperlebogile was like, yo, giving us pressure for no reason. I love a drama queen.
Great question. Great question.
So let me give you the context.
Oh,
a lot of us in Black homes grew up where you have a separate cloth. So one is specifically for the face, and that's usually the smaller square one. And then the other one is like a rectangular shaped and a bit bigger, and that you would use for the body. So one of the listeners is like, he cannot understand people that only have one washcloth, because Vaslab is what we refer to as a washcloth. And is there any reason to believe that there could be any kind of cross-contamination or issues by using just one?
Well, the bottom line is you're not going to infect yourself with something you haven't already got, because if the bugs are living on you, then they're everywhere on you, and you could transfer them easily from one place to another, and they don't necessarily need a washcloth to do that. You're not going to infect yourself with something that's not already on you. So in some respects, it comes down to, well, is there an ick factor here? And is there a reason why you can't wash everywhere with one thing? And what some people do is they say, well, I'll start with a flannel and I'll wash the cleaner bits first, because the cleaner bits will make the cloth less dirty, and then I'll work my way towards the dirty bits last. And if you leave the dirty bits till last, then you're less likely to pick up something and spread it round somewhere cleaner, because you're working from clean to dirty. That's the other possibility. But to be honest with you, most people are sufficiently clean that it really doesn't matter. They're not going to transmit something from a horrible place to a nice place very easily that way. So really, it's probably overkill having one thing to do one thing with and another cloth to do another thing with. You probably don't need to do that.
So Chris, while we're on that then, is it hygienic to wash your dog and your dishes and your baby in the same sink?
It depends what you've done with the sink in the meantime. Same
don't.
water, definitely not. I mean, I wouldn't bath the dog and then chuck the baby in there and then do the washing up afterwards. No, I probably wouldn't do that. In fact, I definitely wouldn't do that. But if I washed the sink out between and changed the water, what's not to like? I mean, we all do that. If you think about the way we carry on our lives, I mean, people will put the dish down for the dog. The dog will do the pre-wash. The dish goes into the dishwasher. The dishwasher cleans it up and saves you water, and you don't contaminate the filter in your dishwasher. Do you not do that? I mean, everyone I know does that. The Labrador does the pre-wash. It's standard practice. you're heating the thing in the dishwasher to such a high temperature. It's going to sort of 80 plus degrees C in the dishwasher with really horrible detergent that just rips everything to pieces. I mean, as one of my friends who's now an anaesthetist running an intensive care department put it, and I think if he knows anyone does, he said, look, quite frankly, if anything can survive that treatment, let's face it, it deserves a chance at life, doesn't it? So that goes for microbes. So I would, as I say, I wouldn't put the dog in the dishwasher and I wouldn't put the baby in the dishwasher. I would put both in the sink, but I would change the water and wash the sink out after each.
We go to the lines. We have Mapuke in Mamelodi. Hi, Mapuke.
How are you?
Good, thanks, and you?
Fine, thanks, my sister. I like the naked scientist.
Mm.
He nailed it when he spoke about the gender, the sex there.
Yes.
Please, can you have people stop using and abusing the alphabet, please? Okay, my point I'm phoning is about the meteorite.
Mm-hmm.
They say they found a meteorite, or there was a meteorite that crashed to Earth, I think in Eastern Cape sometime. I beg to differ. On a flat Earth that does not revolve, that is stationary, how do you get meteorite? Thank you, Aurelie.
On a
Right.
flat Earth.
Okay.
So are you saying in the hypothetical then of the flat Earth, okay?
Well, meteorites are known as meteorites when they are something that has fallen to the Earth's surface from space. So they can come from anywhere up there in space. They could be bits of the moon, they could be bits of asteroid, bits of comet, they could even be bits of other planets. And believe it or not, we have got bits of Mars here on Earth, and we know they're Martian because we can analyse the profile of gases that are on them and in them, locked up in tiny bubbles, and we can see the same profile with measurements that our probes have made when they've gone to Mars. So we know what the ratio of various isotopes are on Mars, and we can make the same measurements on the material here, and so we know, yep, that has come from Mars. They arrive on Earth because the Earth is gravitationally active. We have a mass to our planet. It's about 6 followed by 24 zeros kilograms, so it's a lot of mass. That means it's gravitationally active. It will pull in material from outer space. So as the Earth goes around on its orbit, if it comes close to an object, there's a chance that that object will be captured by the Earth's gravity and accelerate towards the planet. And sometimes it will accelerate towards the Earth planet and get into the atmosphere, and then it becomes a shooting star because it produces a lot of heat as it pushes its way through the atmosphere by compressing the atmosphere, and that makes the atmosphere glow. Sometimes that's so hot it burns the thing to nothing, but some of them are sufficiently big that they make it down to the Earth's surface and they land. And we tend to find them in places where we have the longest lived rocks because they have the greatest chance of laying around on the Earth's surface for long enough for us to pick them up. And so South Africa has some of the oldest rocks on Earth. Western Australia has some of the oldest rocks on Earth. And so we find the craters that these things leave, and sometimes the impactor itself in those craters, in those geographies. And it's nothing to do with the fact that the Earth is not flat, it's a round ball. It's to do with the fact the Earth has mass and therefore has gravity that pulls in these objects which are moving at very high speed, and they slam into the Earth, slowed down by the gravity, and sometimes they survive the impact, and we see them to this day. We can go and pick them up.
Thank you so much for that question. Kwabena from Little Falls, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to know, seems like anytime the air is moved, the temperature of the air goes down, like in wind chill or air conditioner or even a handheld fan. When the movement of the air makes the temperature of the air go down. So I don't know what's happening there.
This is
Okay, so
a
you want to
really
know how that
excellent
works.
question. Yeah, this is a brilliant question, a really good observation. And we do talk about wind chill. And we say, well, the temperature's 10 degrees today, but the wind's blowing and it's going to make it feel like 5 degrees. Why is that? Because if you hold a thermometer in the air, it will just record 10 degrees. So why should it feel colder? And the reason is that when you have air against your skin and the air's not moving, air is a relatively bad conductor of heat. So the air next to your skin gets pretty warm pretty quickly. And because the air's warmed up next to your skin, the skin stops losing heat to the air as quickly as it had because the air's now warm and the air's not moved away. So you've got warm air next to your skin, much harder for the body to cool down. But if we blow that air away it's a windy day, or you turn on a fan, for example, you push away from your skin the now warm air that was close to your skin and you replace it with more cold air at room temperature. So you preserve that gradient of hot skin to cold air, so the rate of heat loss from your skin goes up, and that creates the wind chilling effect. It's nothing to do with a fan being on and making a room cooler. It's actually the fact that the air has replaced the air that was next to your body and warm with more cold air at room temperature, so it feels colder because you're losing heat faster.
Thank you so much for that one, Dr. Chris Smith, and for answering. We do know the movement of air, even just that circulation alone makes such a massive difference. Back next week.